Some nights feel like they'll never end, and some stories that make sure they don't. When the world outside grows still and the darkness thickens, the mind begins to wander, and the shadows begin to whisper. Tonight, you'll be hearing 12 chilling tales carefully chosen for a night just like this. Long, quiet, and full of possibilities. They come from forgotten towns, midnight roads, silent houses, places where fear didn't knock. It walked right in. These aren't legends, told around campfires, they're confessions, unexplained moments that clawed their way out of the ordinary and into something far more terrifying. So if sleep feels distant and the night stretches on endlessly, you're in the right place. Stay with us, because when the night is long, the stories dig deeper. The night was too quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your chest, warning you something's wrong. I was just a delivery driver, pedaling through the city's empty streets, my bike's hum the only sound keeping me grounded. But that night 3 weeks ago, something waited in the dark, a shadow that turned my routine into a nightmare I can't shake. For 8 months, I've been a food delivery driver, weaving through the city's veins on my electric bike. The evening shifts suit me. There's a strange calm in the dark, the streets glowing under sodium lights, the hum of my tires blending with playlists or podcasts through my headphones. My contract demands 3 evening shifts, 2 on weekends, but I don't mind. 4.5 hours is my limit. The bike's battery won't last longer and I need enough juice to get home. Most nights are uneventful, save for the occasional group of teens trying to be clever, chasing me for free food or pretending to be customers. Annoying but harmless. Until that Thursday night when the world tilted into something I can't explain. It was 5:30 p.m., the sky already bruised with dusk. My shift stretched until 9:30, a standard 4 hours. Where I live, we're paid hourly, not per delivery, a blessing and a curse. The downside? I can't refuse orders. If the app signs a trip, I'm bound to take it, no questions asked. That night the orders were kind. Local restaurants, short rides, no hassle. The air was crisp, a bite of autumn in it. But I'd layered up. Thermal shirt, jacket, gloves. Rain stayed away, thank God. By 8:15 I was coasting, 1 battery bar. Down, feeling the rhythm of the night. Then the app pinged. A McDonald's order, 12 minutes from the restaurant. Not ideal, but doable. The route was mostly bike lanes. A straight shot except for a few road crossings. I waited 15 minutes at the counter, the smell of fries and grease clinging to my jacket. Order in hand, I mounted my bike, switched to a moody lo-fi playlist, and pedaled into the quiet. The streets were empty, the city holding its breath. Streetlights cast long, wavering shadows, and the air felt heavier, like it was watching me. The customer's house was in a residential pocket, rows of neat homes with glowing windows. I eased onto the sidewalk, squinting at house numbers in the dark. Finding the right one, I locked my bike to a pole, the chain rattling louder than it should have. I knocked on the door, my bag warm against my leg. Footsteps shuffled inside, and a woman opened the door, her smile soft but tired. I handed her the bag, said, "Enjoy your meal," and she pressed a small tip into my hand with a quiet, "Thank you." The door clicked shut, and I was alone again, the night pressing closer. I unlocked my bike, but my phone, charging via a power bank, was tangled in my jacket. The wire annoyed me, snagging every time I moved my bag. I didn't want to linger. In the customer's front yard, those doorbell cameras make you feel like a thief, so I rolled my bike a few yards to a narrow alley nearby. It was a sliver of a place, barely wide enough for 2 people, flanked by high brick walls. A single street lamp flickered at the far end, its light weak, like it was drowning in the dark. I propped my bike against the wall, the metal frame cold. under my gloves and fumbled with the power bank. The playlist shifted to a slower track, the bass pulsing in my ears. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, scraping against the pavement. My stomach twisted. You're alone, but you're not. The sound grew closer, each step a nail against my nerves. I told myself it was just a passerby, someone cutting through the alley. I was blocking the path, wasn't I? I stepped aside, pressing myself against the damp brick, my bike's handlebar digging into my hip. Sorry, I muttered, gesturing for them to pass. But the footsteps stopped. Silence swallowed the air, thick and wrong. I looked up. She was there, inches away. A tall, skeletal woman, her face gaunt, her long hair spilling over her shoulders like spilled ink. Her skin was pale, almost translucent, her eyes sunken pits that locked onto mine. She wore a blue hoodie, the hood up, and brown jeans that hung loose on her frame. Her mouth hung open, her breath shallow, rasping. She didn't blink, didn't move. Just stared, her gaze drilling into me. You can't look away, you want to, but you can't. My heart hammered, my throat dry. The alley seemed to shrink, the walls leaning in, the air growing colder. Can I help you? I forced the words out, my voice thin. She didn't answer. Seconds stretched, each one a weight on my chest. Then her lips parted. You have my food. Her voice was low, flat, like it came from somewhere else. I froze. The app hadn't marked the order as delivered yet. I was still fiddling with my phone. Could she be the customer? No, I just handed the food to someone else. I think another driver has your order, I said, forcing a smile. Where'd you order from? I glanced at my phone, ready to check the app to help her get a refund. Anything to break the tension. Her face changed. The blank stare twisted into a glare, hard and ugly, like I'd insulted her. No, she said, louder now, her voice cutting through the night. That was my food. My pulse spiked. Run. You need to run. But my legs wouldn't move. I tried. Again, softer. Ma'am, can you check your app? It'll show where your driver is. She stepped back, her hand shooting out, pointing at me. My food. I need my food. Her voice was a growl now, each word a blade. I thought fast. Maybe she was hungry, homeless, desperate. I always carried snacks, protein granola bars, small and easy to eat while waiting for orders. I have some food, I said, my hands shaking. As I unzipped my bag, I pulled out a bar, holding it out like an offering. Here, take this. She snatched it, her fingers brushing mine, cold as ice. But she didn't back off. She stepped closer, her glare sharpening. I want my food, she said, her voice a hiss. The granola bar dangled in her hand, unopened, ignored. I was trapped. The alley felt like a tunnel, the walls closing in, the street lamp flickering like a dying heartbeat. You're not safe here. Move. I tried one last time. Please just tell me your name or what you ordered. I can help. She took a deep breath, her chest rising, and then she screamed. A sound so raw, so piercing it tore through me. I flinched, slamming against the wall, my bike's throttle twisting under my hand. The motor whined, lurching forward, and I stumbled. Catching myself, I swung onto the bike, pedaling hard, the scream echoing behind me. The alley opened to a street, but a low fence blocked the way, forcing me to slow. That's when I felt it, a tug on the bike, her hand gripping the rear rack. I yelped, my breath catching as I glanced back. She was there, her face twisted, her eyes wild. Something glinted in her other hand, a knife, its blade scraping the wall, sparking in the dark. She's going to kill you. I cranked the assist, mode to max. the battery beeping in protest, and pedaled like my life depended on it. The fence passed and I was free, the street stretching ahead. Her screams followed, shrill and unhinged, calling me a thief, a liar. I risked another glance. She stood at the alley's mouth, the granola bar raised above her head. She hurled it, the box spinning through the air, landing a meter away. The knife was still in her hand, its edge catching the streetlight. I didn't look back again. My legs burned, my lungs ached, but I kept going, the city blurring around me. I don't know how long I rode. The app pinged, snapping me back. I fumbled with my phone, marking the order complete, praying for a new one to anchor me. A kebab shop 8 minutes away. I knew the place, the owner, a kind man, always offered drivers food or water. I rode there, my hands trembling, my breath ragged. When I arrived, the owner took one look at me and handed me a glass of water. "What happened?" he asked, his voice steady. I told him everything, the words spilling out. He called my company, explained I couldn't continue. They let me end my shift early. A coworker met me there and we rode back to the city center together. The lights and noise a shield against the dark. That night haunts me. The alley, the woman, the knife. They're burned into my mind, vivid as a nightmare. What if she'd caught me? What if I hadn't escaped? I see her face when I close my eyes, her stare waiting in the shadows. I don't ride through that alley anymore, but sometimes late at night I swear I hear footsteps behind me, slow and scraping, following me into the dark. The stone walls of the old church seem to pulse with a life of their own, as if they've been waiting for me to step inside. For 4 years I've been the caretaker of this ancient complex in Scotland, a sprawling maze of history where the church sanctuary and 3 townhouses, all forged in 1710, stand like silent sentinels. Their towering 4-story facades, weathered by centuries, hold secrets I've never dared to question. My evenings begin at 6:30, when the world outside fades into a gray dusk, and I enter this labyrinth to tend its offices, function rooms, and sacred halls. The silence has always been my ally, a gentle companion in the dim glow of half-lit corridors. But last night, the silence turned against me, and something else took its place. I've never feared this place. The creaking floors, the shadowed corners, the faint hum of the wind through cracked windows. They're as familiar as my own heartbeat. The church, with its vaulted ceilings and stained glass eyes, feels like a living thing, but a kind one, watching over me as I work. The townhouses, with their endless rooms and dusty portraits, carry the weight of forgotten lives, but they've never felt hostile. Even the sanctuary, where the air grows thick with the scent of old wax and prayer, has always been a place of peace. Or so I thought. That night, as I stepped through the heavy oak doors, something was different. The air felt dense, clinging to my skin like damp cloth, and a chill settled into my bones, deeper than the usual Scottish cold. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air itself warn you to leave? I shook it off, blaming the long hours and the gathering dusk. My routine began as always, checking locks, dusting surfaces, moving through the townhouses with my flashlight casting long, wavering beams. The portraits on the walls, stern-faced men and women from centuries past, watched me pass, their painted eyes glinting in the half-light. I've always ignored them, but that night their gazes felt alive, following me as I moved. My chest tightened, a faint pressure building like the first stirrings of a storm. You know that feeling, don't you? When your body senses something your mind refuses to see. I told myself it was nothing, a trick of the mind. But my steps quickened as I crossed into the church. The charity creche, a bright corner of the complex, is a place of warmth, filled with children's toys and colorful drawings pinned to the walls. It's the least likely place for dread, yet as I wiped down a table, it came. A voice, low and male, cut through the silence, speaking my name. Not a distant echo, not a murmur, but a deliberate call, as if someone stood inches behind me, their breath grazing my ear. My heart seized. I spun around, my flashlight trembling, its beam slicing through the empty room. The toys sat untouched, the chairs neatly tucked, the air still. But you can't unhear your name spoken in a place where no one should be. My pulse roared in my ears and I stood frozen, waiting for a sound, a shadow, anything to explain it. Nothing came. My laugh was hollow, a weak attempt to dismiss it, but my hands shook as I gathered my things and fled the room. The bridge to the church is a narrow corridor, its stone walls lined with portraits older than the townhouses. There, faces, half hidden in shadow, seem to shift in the corner of my eye, but I've always chalked it up to fatigue. That night, each step felt like wading through a dream. The air grew heavier, pressing against my chest, and halfway across, I heard it. Footsteps, slow and uneven, trailing behind me. Not my own. Mine are light, quick. But these were heavy, deliberate, like someone dragging their feet across the stone. Close your eyes and picture it. You're alone, but the sound of someone following you grows louder, closer. I stopped, my breath shallow, and turned. The corridor stretched empty, the portraits staring blankly, their eyes glinting like see. They knew something I didn't. The footsteps stopped too, as if waiting for me to move again. You feel it now, don't you? That dread crawling up your spine, whispering you're not alone. I forced myself forward, my flashlight beam shaking as I entered the outer sanctuary. The inner sanctuary lies beyond a glass partition, its pews, and altar shrouded in darkness, lit only by the faint glow of distant streetlights. As I glanced at the glass, I saw it. A figure, tall and blurred, standing just beyond the partition. Not a reflection, not a trick of the light, but a presence, its edges soft, like a memory bleeding into reality. My breath caught, and for a moment I was a child again, staring into the dark, certain something stared back. My legs moved before my mind could catch up, carrying me into the inner sanctuary. My flashlight swept the room. Empty. No figure, no sound, just the faint scent of old wood and melted wax. But you know what it's like to see something that shouldn't be there, don't you? The air felt wrong, heavy with a presence I couldn't name, and I backed away, my skin prickling. The night wasn't done with me. I climbed the stairs to the upper gallery where the choir room sits, a small space for rehearsals, its walls lined with hymn books and faded sheet music. As I reached the landing, a sound tore through the silence, a door slamming shut with enough force to shake the walls. My stomach plummeted. The choir room door was closed, locked, which it never is. I fumbled with my master key, my hands slick with sweat, my mind screaming to run. The lock clicked, and I pushed the door open. The air inside was alive with wrongness. A stench hit me, sharp and acrid, like the breath of something ancient, something that hadn't spoken in centuries. The room was empty, chairs stacked, books neatly arranged. But the smell clung to my skin, seeping into my lungs. I stood there, my body rooted, as if the room demanded I stay, as if it wanted me to see. I locked the door and stumbled back, my heart pounding. The crypt awaited my final task, a network of tunnels beneath the property stretching under the main road. The spiral staircase descends into a cold, absolute darkness, each step a plunge into silence. I've always found the crypt peaceful, its stone walls a refuge from the world above. But that night it felt like a trap. The air grew colder, thicker, and as I moved through the corridors, cleaning and checking, the footsteps returned. Not behind me, but ahead, echoing from the shadows. Slow, deliberate, like someone pacing, waiting. Imagine it, alone in a crypt, hearing steps where no one could be. My flashlight caught only stone, but the sound grew closer, circling me. The crypt has one entrance, one exit. I was alone. Or was I? My hands shook as I finished, my breath fogging in the chill, and I climbed the stairs, feeling eyes on my back. The final security sweep was a nightmare. Every shadow seemed to move, every creak a warning. I checked each room, my flashlight beam trembling, half expecting to see that figure again. When I stepped outside, the night air hit me like salvation, cold and sharp. I've never been so grateful to leave a place I love. I stood there, staring at the church's towering silhouette, its windows dark and unyielding, like eyes watching me go. My job waits for me tonight, but the thought of returning makes my blood run cold. What was in there with me? I don't know, but as I walked away, I felt a gaze on my back, heavy and unrelenting from the shadows I'd left behind. My grandmother's story haunts me now. She was a cleaner here in the 1960s, long before my time. One night she saw a man in the sanctuary dressed in tattered robes, his face hidden in shadow. She called out, thinking he was a priest, but he turned and vanished into the air. The next day, she learned no priest had been in the building. She never worked alone again. I thought it was a tale to scare me, but now I'm not so sure. The church has stood for centuries, its stones soaked in prayers and pain. Last night it shared a secret with me, one I can't unlearn, and I'm terrified it's not done. There's another story, older still, whispered among the locals. In the 1800s, a priest disappeared in this church, last seen in the crypt. They found his robes, torn and bloodied, but never his body. Some say he angered something ancient, something tied to the land itself. I never believed it until now. What if it's still here, waiting in the dark? Each night as I lock the doors, I wonder if I'm sealing it in, or sealing myself with it. The church is my duty, my burden, but after last night, I don't know if I can face it again. The air felt wrong that day, heavy with a stillness that made my skin prickle. I was 7, perched by an open window, the world outside bathed in the fading gold of late afternoon. My mother's warnings echoed in my mind. Ghosts lurk near windows, waiting for careless children. I thought I'd outgrown her stories, but then I saw it, across the yard, and my world changed forever. When I was little, my mother had a way of weaving fear into lessons. She'd sit me down, her voice low, and tell me about the ghosts that haunted open windows. They wait there, she'd say, her eyes wide, watching for children who get too close. One wrong step and they'll push you out. As a toddler, I believed her, clinging to my bed at night, far from the window's gaping mouths. By 7, though, I was smarter, or so I thought. Ghosts weren't real. Her stories were just tricks to keep me safe, to stop me from leaning out and falling. It made sense. Open windows were dangerous for a kid, especially in our old house, with its creaky sills and second-floor views. I'd roll my eyes when she repeated the tale, but a tiny part of me still hesitated near those windows just in case. We lived in a narrow house, its faded paint peeling like old skin. Across a small concrete yard, not grass, just cold gray slab, stood another house, a mirror of ours. No street separated us, just that barren stretch of pavement, cracked and stained. A family lived there, with a girl a few years younger than me, maybe 4 or 5. I didn't know her name, didn't care to. We never played together, never even waved. She was just a shadow in her window sometimes, a flicker of movement when I glanced out. Our lives were separate, bound only by that empty yard and the windows that faced each other like unblinking eyes. That afternoon, I was restless. The house was too quiet. My mother in the kitchen, the hum of the radio her only company. I dragged a wooden chair to my bedroom window, the one that overlooked the yard. The air was warm, the window propped open with a stick, letting in the faint smell of dust and distant flowers. I sat there, knees tucked up, staring at the world outside. The sun hung low, painting the concrete gold, the shadows stretching long and thin. It was peaceful, almost dreamlike, the kind of moment where time feels soft, like you could slip into it and never wake up. Look closer, see what's waiting. I didn't know why that thought came, but it did, sharp and cold. Across the yard, the girl was at her window. She sat on the sill, her small frame outlined against the dim interior of her room. Her head was down, her hair falling in loose strands, as if she was waiting for someone. Her father, maybe, coming home from work. I watched her, not because I cared, but because there was nothing else to see. The yard was empty, the street beyond silent. Just me, her, and the fading light. Then something moved. It was subtle at first, a flicker in the corner of my eye. You saw it. You know you did. The room behind the girl was dark, the lights off. Which wasn't strange. It was only 4 in the afternoon, the sun still strong. But the darkness felt wrong, too thick, like it was pooling behind her, gathering weight. I squinted, my breath catching. There, in the shadows, was a shape. Tall, broad-shouldered, unmistakably human, but not. It was a man, or the outline of one, his edges blurred as if he was made of smoke. He stood just behind the girl, motionless, his presence a stain on the air. My heart thudded, loud in my ears. It's not real. It's just a trick of the light. But I couldn't look away. The girl didn't move, didn't turn, as if she didn't feel him there. I wanted to shout, to bang on the glass, to warn her, but my voice was gone, trapped in my throat. The shadow shifted, leaning closer, its form sharpening for a moment. Long arms, a featureless face, no eyes, just voids where they should have been. Run, you have to run. But I was frozen, my hands gripping the chair, my body heavy like I was sinking into a dream. The shadow raised a hand, slow, deliberate, and then the girl fell. It happened so fast, yet every second stretched into forever. One moment she was there, perched on the sill. The next she was gone, her body tipping forward, disappearing below the window. I didn't hear her scream, didn't hear anything, just the roar of my own pulse. The concrete yard swallowed her, the low wall beneath her window hiding her from view. I scrambled to my feet, the chair scraping the floor, my hands shaking as I pressed them against the glass. The shadow was gone. The room across the yard was empty, the darkness ordinary now, as if nothing had happened. But I knew what I'd seen. It pushed her. It wanted her to fall. I don't remember running to my mother, but I must have because she was there, her hands on my shoulders asking what was wrong. I stammered something about the girl, the window, the shadow, but the words felt wrong, like they couldn't capture the truth. She didn't believe me, not fully. Her face tight with worry, but also doubt. "Stay here," she said, and left to check. I stood in the kitchen, the radio's cheerful tune mocking me, my eyes fixed on the window. It's still out there. It's watching. The girl survived. I heard the ambulance later, its wail cutting through the dusk. My mother came back, her voice soft, saying the girl had fallen, broken her leg and nose, her face bruised from the impact. "She's lucky," my mother said, but her eyes lingered on me, searching. I didn't tell her about the shadow again. I couldn't. The words felt too big, too heavy, like saying them would make it real. But I knew it was real. I'd seen. It felt it, that cold, creeping presence that wasn't human, wasn't anything I could name. After that day, I never went near an open window again. The house felt different, its corners sharper, its shadows deeper. At night, I'd lie in bed, the curtains drawn tight, listening for sounds I couldn't explain. A creak, a whisper, a tap against the glass. It's waiting. It knows you saw. My mother's stories weren't just stories anymore. They were warnings, truths I'd been too stubborn to see. The girl moved away, or maybe her family did. I never saw her again. But the shadow stayed with me, a weight in my chest, a flicker in my dreams. Years later, I asked my mother about that day. She didn't remember much, just the ambulance, the neighbors' whispers. But when I mentioned the shadow, her face changed, just for a moment, like she knew something she'd never say. "Some things," she said, "are better left alone." I didn't push her. I didn't need to. The shadow was mine now, a memory that followed me, clear as the day it happened. You can't escape it. It's part of you. And every time I pass an open window, I feel it watching, waiting, just out of sight. The night wraps my house in a stillness so deep it feels like the world is holding its breath. Out here in the countryside, where the nearest neighbor is miles away, the quiet is my sanctuary. Just me, my dog, and the endless fields stretching into the dark. My small house sits at the end of a gravel driveway, flanked by wild grass and shadowed pines. At night, the stars burn bright, untouched by city lights, and the only sounds are the rustle of leaves or the distant call of an owl. But last week, something broke that silence, and I haven't slept right since. I've lived here for years, drawn to the solitude. The city's noise, its crowds, its chaos never suited me. Out here, I know every creak of the house, every shift of the wind. My dog, a scruffy mutt named Jasper, usually sleeps at the foot of my bed, his soft snores a comfort. The motion sensor light outside my front porch is my only guard, flicking on when deer or foxes wander too close. It's reliable, predictable, a small reassurance in the vast emptiness. Until that first night, when it lit up and showed me something that didn't belong. It was past midnight when I woke, my heart already racing, though I didn't know why. Jasper was still, his ears pricked, staring at the window. The motion sensor light blazed through the blinds, casting sharp lines across the floor. You know that moment when your body senses danger before your mind understands? I slid out of bed, my bare feet cold against the wood, and crept to the window. My hand hesitated on the blind, a strange weight in my chest, like a warning whispered in a language I couldn't grasp. I lifted the slat and looked. At the end of my driveway, where the gravel meets the road, he stood, a man tall and still, his silhouette stark against the light's harsh glow. He faced the house, his head tilted slightly as if studying it, studying me. My breath caught, and the world seemed to blur, like a dream slipping into reality. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't step closer. Just stood there, a shadow-given form, his presence heavy, wrong. Have you ever felt eyes on you even when you can't see them? I froze, my hand gripping the blind, unable to look away. The light timed out, plunging the driveway into darkness, and he was gone. Or was he? I didn't sleep that night. I sat. On the couch, Jasper pressed against my side, my eyes darting to the windows. Every rustle outside, every shift of the house made my pulse spike. I told myself it was a hiker, a lost traveler, someone harmless. But the image of him, still, silent, watching, clung to me, a splinter in my mind. You try to rationalize fear, don't you? But deep down you know when something's not right. The next night it happened again. The light snapped on, tearing me from a fitful sleep. Jasper growled low, his hackles raised, and I stumbled to the window, my heart in my throat. There he was. Same spot, same stance, facing the house with that unnerving stillness. The light caught the edges of his form, dark coat, broad shoulders. But his face was a void swallowed by shadow. My skin crawled as if the air itself carried his gaze. I watched, paralyzed, as the seconds stretched into eternity. The light went out, and he vanished, leaving only the dark and my pounding heart. You feel it now, don't you? That dread creeping through your veins, telling you you're not alone. It went on like that for a week, each night a cruel ritual. The light would flare, Jasper would tense, and I'd find him there, at the edge of my world, watching. Always in the same spot, never closer, never farther. I tried to study him, to catch some detail, a glint of eyes, a movement, but he was like a statue carved from night itself. Sometimes I wondered if he was real, or if my mind had conjured him from the silence. I stopped opening the blinds, but I could feel him out there, his presence pressing against the walls of my house, seeping through the cracks. You know what it's like to feel watched, don't you? Even when you close your eyes. By the third night, I was unraveling. I barely ate, barely worked. My days blurred into a haze of dread, waiting for the inevitable. I called the sheriff's department, my voice shaking as I explained. The deputy who came was kind but skeptical, his flashlight sweeping the empty driveway. No footprints, no tire marks, no sign of anyone. Probably just a drunk wandering through, he said, but his eyes lingered on the dark beyond the light. Call if he gets closer. Closer. The word lodged in my chest, a new fear taking root. I thanked him and locked the door, but the house no longer felt like a sanctuary. It felt like a trap. I tried to protect myself. I kept a kitchen knife on the nightstand, checked the locks obsessively, left every light in the house burning. Jasper stopped sleeping, his eyes fixed on the door, a low whine in his throat. I bought heavier curtains, but they couldn't block the feeling. That weight, that gaze, waiting just outside. One night, I dreamed of him. I was outside, standing, in the driveway, the air thick and cold. He was there, closer than ever, his face still hidden, but his presence suffocating. He didn't speak, didn't move, but I felt words in my mind. I see you. I woke gasping, the light blazing outside, and I knew he was there, watching. My grandfather told me a story once when I was a kid. He'd grown up in these parts, on a farm not far from my house. One winter, he said, a stranger came to their door every night for a week, standing in the snow, staring at the house. Never spoke, never knocked. On the 8th night, he was gone, but the next day they found tracks, human but too deep, too wide, circling the house. Some things don't belong here, he'd said, his eyes distant. I thought it was just a story, a way to scare me. Now, I'm not so sure. By the 7th night, I was a wreck. I hadn't slept more than an hour at a time, my nerves frayed to breaking. When the light came on, I didn't go to the window. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, clutching Jasper, whispering to myself that it wasn't real. But you can't outrun fear, can you? The light stayed on longer that night, as if daring me to look. When it finally went out, I felt no relief, only a deeper dread, like something had shifted. And then it stopped. The 8th night, I waited, braced for the light, for him. Nothing. No glow, no shadow, no weight in the air. Jasper slept, his breathing even, and the house felt lighter, like a storm had passed. I checked the driveway at dawn. Nothing but gravel and grass, untouched. It was over as suddenly as it began, with no explanation, no trace. But you don't just forget something like that, do you? I've never told anyone this. Out here, people would think I'm crazy, or worse, they'd believe me. The house is still my home, Jasper still my companion. But the quiet feels different now, fragile, like it could break at any moment. I keep the curtains closed, the knife close, and I don't look out the windows at night. Sometimes when the wind howls, I feel it again. That gaze, heavy and unyielding, watching from the dark. What was he? I don't know. But I know he saw me, and a part of me fears he's still out there, waiting for the light to find him again. There's a local legend, one I heard after I moved here. They say these fields were once a burial ground, long before the farms came. People went missing, drawn into the night, their tracks ending at the edge of the fields. The old-timers call it the Watcher, a thing that stands at the boundary, choosing who it sees. I laughed it off back when the world made sense. Now I lock my doors and pray it's forgotten me. The house was wrong from the moment we arrived. Its walls too still, its air too thick, like it was holding its breath. I was 6, too young to name the unease that clung to me, but old enough to feel it. Every night I'd lie in bed whispering to myself that monsters weren't real. Years later I learned the truth. The house wasn't empty, it was alive, and it was listening. We moved in when I was 6, a family of 3. Me, my mother, and the weight of a fresh start. The house was old, its paint chipped, its wooden floors worn smooth by decades of unseen feet. It sat on a quiet street, the kind where neighbors kept to themselves, their curtains drawn tight. The room smelled of dust and something sharper, like damp earth after rain. My mother called it a fixer-upper, her voice bright with forced optimism, but I hated it. The windows rattled in their frames. The shadows in the corners seemed to shift when I wasn't looking, and the silence was never truly silent. Listen, hear it? At night, I'd curl up under my blankets, repeating, "There's no such thing as monsters," until sleep took me. It worked mostly, but the house never felt like home. For 2 years I lived in that small bedroom, its walls papered in faded flowers, its single window overlooking a sagging backyard. I'd wake sometimes, heart pounding, certain I'd heard something. A step, a breath, a rustle in the dark. My mother would check, flashlight in hand, and find nothing. "Just the house settling," she'd say, but her eyes lingered on the corners as if she felt it too. When my brother was born, everything changed. He was a tiny thing, all soft cries and grabbing hands, and by the time he was 3, he moved into my old room. I got the bigger one down the hall, a trait I thought was a victory. I was wrong. My brother's nightmares started almost immediately. He'd wake screaming, his small body shaking, pointing at the corner of his room. "The man," he'd sob. "The man's there, he's burning everything." Sometimes it was bugs, crawling, writhing things he swore covered the floor, their legs skittering in the dark. My mother would hold him, rocking him back to sleep, but nothing calmed him except an old children's show about a fireman. He'd watch it, eyes wide, clutching his blanket, as if the bright colors could banish the shadows. He sees it, you know he does. I told myself it was just a phase, a kid's imagination running wild. But the house felt heavier now, its air thicker, like it was feeding on his fear. I was 13 when my mother's story shook me. We were at breakfast, the kitchen bathed in morning light, the smell of toast and coffee grounding us. She looked tired, her hands wrapped around a mug, her voice low. "Something happened last night," she said. She'd woken to a sound, breathing, close and heavy, right in her ear. She thought it was my brother sneaking into her bed, but then remembered he was at his father's. She'd bolted upright, fumbling for the light, but the room was empty. No one was there. Her words hung in the air, and I felt it again. That prickle on my skin, the house's silent watch. It's here, it's always been here. She brushed it off, laughing nervously. But that night she burned sage in her room, the smoke curling like ghosts, its sharp scent stinging my eyes. Just to be safe, she said, but I saw the fear in her. I didn't believe her. Not really. Not until it happened to me. It was a week later, a gray morning when I stayed home from school, my throat raw with tonsillitis. My mother was at work, the house empty except for me. I was in bed, propped up with pillows, playing a game on my laptop, the familiar hum of virtual lives a comfort. The room was warm, the light soft through the curtains, but a strange sensation crept over me, like a bubble forming around my head, muffling the world. Feel it. It's coming. My ears rang, a faint pressure building, and then I heard it. Breathing, slow and deliberate right beside my ear. It wasn't loud, just deep, rhythmic, like someone standing inches away watching me. My heart stopped. I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard, the game forgotten. I turned my head slow, terrified of what I'd see. Nothing. The room was empty, the curtains still, the door closed. But the breathing didn't stop. It was closer now, insistent, brushing against my skin like a cold wind. Run! You have to run! My legs moved before my mind caught up, carrying me out of bed, down the stairs. My laptop clutched to my chest. I collapsed on the couch, my breath ragged, my eyes darting to the corners. The house was silent again, but it wasn't empty. I felt it, that presence, lingering just out of sight. I called my mother, my voice shaking, and stayed downstairs all day, the television on low, its noise a shield against the quiet. She came home that evening, her face tight with worry. She'd forgotten the sage, and I wanted to scream at her, to tell her it was a mistake, that we weren't safe. But I didn't. I went to bed, the lights on, my door locked, and somehow slept. The next morning it happened again. I was back. In bed, the same game on my laptop, the same soft light. The bubble returned, the pressure, and then the breathing. Louder this time, a heavy rasping sound that filled my skull. I threw my hands up, my voice trembling. Okay, I'm going. I grabbed my laptop and ran downstairs, my heart pounding. The house's walls seeming to lean in, watching me flee. That night, my mother burned sage through every room. The smoke thick and choking, her hands steady but her eyes afraid. She didn't say much, just moved from corner to corner, whispering words I couldn't hear. The house felt lighter after, the air cleaner, and for a while I thought it was over. My brother's nightmares faded, his screams replaced by quiet sleep. The breathing stopped, the corners seemed empty. We were safe, or so I believed. Weeks later, we were in the kitchen, the morning bright, the house almost normal. My father had sent me a new mug, heat-resistant, perfect for the green tea we loved to share. I stood at the counter, my mother beside me, the kettle steaming. I poured a drop of water into the mug, joking, "I think the ghosts are gone." The words barely left my mouth when the mug shattered. Not cracked, shattered, exploding into 1,000 tiny shards scattering across the counter, the floor glinting in the sunlight. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. I stared, my heart in my throat, the air suddenly cold. "It's not gone, it never left." We laughed, a nervous, hollow sound, but our eyes met and we knew. The house was still alive. That night, my mother told me the truth. Years ago, when she was young, the house had been boarded up, abandoned, a place kids dared each other to enter. She and her friends had broken in, laughing, reckless, with a Ouija board they barely understood. They'd played, asking questions, giggling until things moved. Chairs, shadows, air that shouldn't have stirred. They ran, never went back, but she'd always known. The house wasn't empty. They'd opened something, and it stayed. When we moved in years later, she thought it was gone, buried in time. She was wrong. We moved out 2 years later. The house sold to someone else. Its secrets left behind. Nothing followed us. No breathing, no shadows, no shattering glass. But I never forgot. The house is still there, in my dreams, its walls whispering, its corners watching. You lived in me. You'll always carry me. And sometimes when I'm alone, I feel that bubble again, that pressure, and I wonder if it's really gone or if it's just waiting. The fluorescent lights of the school cafeteria buzzed like a swarm of distant insects, casting a sickly glow over the art supplies scattered across the tables. It was 1988, my third grade year at Julius Marks Elementary, and I was staying, late for an after-school art class. The room smelled of crayons and glue, a familiar comfort, but as the other kids laughed and painted, I felt a strange restlessness, like the air was too thick, too still. You know that moment when the world feels just a little off, like a dream you can't quite wake from? I was 8, fearless in the way kids are, but something about that evening made my skin prickle. I raised my hand, mumbled about needing the bathroom, and slipped out, leaving the chatter behind. The hallways of Julius Marks were different after hours. During the day, they were alive with the chaos of kids. Shouts, footsteps, the squeak of sneakers. But now, with the sun gone and the building half empty, they felt like a different place, a shadow of themselves. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting long, wavering pools of light between stretches of darkness. My sneakers scuffed against the linoleum, the sound too loud in the silence. I've walked these halls 100 times, but that night, each step felt like crossing a line into something unknown. The bathroom was just around the corner, past my classroom, its door slightly ajar, spilling a faint glow into the hall. I kept my eyes forward, ignoring the shadows that seemed to shift in the corners. Halfway down the hall, it hit me, a feeling sharp and cold, like a hand brushing the back of my neck. You felt it, haven't you? That certainty that someone's watching even when you're alone. My steps slowed, my heart thudding in my chest. I turned, my eyes scanning the empty hallway. Nothing. Just the flickering lights, the locked lockers, the posters curling at the edges. But the feeling grew, heavy, pressing, like eyes boring into me from somewhere I couldn't see. I told myself it was nothing, just a kid's imagination, but my body knew better. I turned back toward the bathroom, my pace quickening when I saw it. In the doorway of the classroom next to mine, it stood. A figure no taller than me, but wrong in every way. Its body was thin, impossibly so, like a stick figure drawn by a trembling hand. Its arms and legs were long, disproportionate, dangling like they didn't belong. And its head, large, egg-shaped, too heavy for its fragile frame, tilted slightly, as if studying me. The light from the classroom framed it, a silhouette against the glow, but its features were lost in shadow. My breath caught and the world seemed to blur, like reality was slipping away. It wasn't human. You know that feeling, don't you? When you see something that shouldn't exist and your mind screams to run, but your body won't move. I stood frozen, my eyes locked on it. The air felt thick, electric, like the moment before a storm. I wanted to scream, to call for help, but my voice was gone, swallowed by the weight of its presence. It didn't move, didn't step closer, but I felt it. Its gaze, not with eyes, but with something deeper, piercing through me, peeling back my thoughts. Imagine it, standing in a hallway you've known your whole life, facing something that doesn't belong, something that knows you're there. My heart pounded, my palms slick with sweat, and then like a switch flipping, my legs moved. I ran, my sneakers slamming against the floor, and dove into the bathroom, the door swinging shut behind me. The bathroom was dark, the single bulb flickering like it was on its last breath. I pressed myself against the wall, my chest heaving, my mind racing. What was that? I tried to piece it together, to make sense of it, but my thoughts were a jumble, like a puzzle with missing pieces. I must have stayed there, crouched in the dimness for minutes. Or was it longer? The strange thing is, I don't remember. The time in that bathroom is a blank, a gap in my memory, like a page torn from a book. You've had moments like that, haven't you? When time slips away and you're not sure what's real anymore. I don't recall washing my hands or even leaving, but somehow I was back in the hallway, the bathroom door behind me, the classroom door now dark. I crept back to the cafeteria, my legs shaking, my mind a storm of fear and confusion. The other kids were still there, painting and laughing, oblivious to the world I'd just stepped out of. I burst through the door, my voice trembling as I told them what I'd seen. A thing, not human, in the hallway. Their eyes widened, some giggling, others leaning closer. One kid, a boy with messy hair, grabbed a piece of paper and sketched it. Long limbs, big head, no face. "That's an alien," he said, his voice a mix of awe and fear. "A gray." I'd never heard of grays, never seen pictures of them. Aliens to me were cartoonish green, not this thing that felt like it had crawled out of a nightmare. But you know how a single word can change everything, don't you? The kids' stories poured out, tales of UFOs, abductions, lights. In the sky, I listened, my heart still racing, but their words only deepened the dread. What if it wasn't just standing there? What if it wanted something? I went home that night. The image of it burned into my mind, its silhouette haunting every shadow. In my room, my mother told me a story once when I was younger. She'd been a janitor at a different school, years before I was born. One night she saw a figure in the gym, small and thin, moving too smoothly like it glided. She blinked and it was gone. "Some places hold things we don't understand," she'd said, her voice quiet. I thought it was a bedtime story, a way to keep me in line. Now I'm not so sure. The days that followed were a blur. I stopped going to art class, made excuses to avoid the hallways after dark. The school felt different, like it was watching me, waiting for me to slip back into that moment. I kept thinking about the bathroom, the missing time, the way my memory frayed at the edges. I told a few people over the years, friends, later a teacher, but their reactions were always the same: disbelief or wild theories about abductions, memory wipes. You've told a story no one believes, haven't you? And yet you know it's true. I know I saw it, know it was real, because the fear still lingers, sharp and cold, even now. There's a rumor about Julius Marks, one I heard. Years later, the school was built on land once used for strange experiments. Back in the 50s, government tests, lights in the sky, things no one talks about now. Kids used to say the basement held locked rooms, places even the janitors avoided. I never went down there, never wanted to. But what if it wasn't just in the hallway? What if it's still there, waiting in the dark? I've never seen it again, never had another encounter, but sometimes when I'm alone, I feel it. That weight, that gaze, like it's still watching, still knows my name. and I wonder if I'll ever walk a hallway at night without looking over my shoulder. The morning air was sharp, slicing through my jacket as I hurried down the street late for school again. The world was ordinary, cars rumbling, leaves skittering across pavement, until I saw him. A man, just ahead, his stride too steady, his presence a crack in the fabric of the day. He walked toward a wall, and then he was gone, swallowed by something I couldn't understand. That was the first time, but not the last. I was 16, a high school kid with too many tardies and not enough excuses. That morning I'd overslept, my alarm drowned by dreams I couldn't recall. The street I took to school was a shortcut, a quiet lane that ended at a park, its edge marked by a stone wall. The wall was old, 7 feet high on the street side, but dropping to 2 feet on the park side, revealing benches, thin trees, and patches of worn grass. I'd walked this path hundreds of times, knew every crack in the pavement, every graffiti tag on the stone. It was familiar, safe, a piece of my world I never questioned. Until that day. I was panting, my backpack bouncing, the cold air stinging, my lungs. The street was empty, the park silent beyond the wall. Ahead of me, a man walked. He was maybe 30, his hair cropped short, a faded green backpack slung over one shoulder. He wore a gray jacket, jeans, nothing remarkable. His pace was steady, unhurried, like he had nowhere to be. I didn't think much of it. Just another guy, maybe heading to the park. But something about him felt off, like a note played slightly out of tune. Watch him. See where he goes. I shook it off, focused on my steps, the school bell ringing in. My mind. The street ended in a T, the wall looming straight ahead, forcing a choice, left or right. I expected him to turn, to pick a direction like anyone would. He didn't. He kept walking straight toward the wall, his silhouette sharp against the gray stone. My steps slowed, my breath catching. He's not stopping. I blinked, certain I'd misjudged the distance, but he was closer now, inches from the wall, his body moving as if the stone wasn't there. And then he was gone. Not over the wall, not around it, through it. His form dissolving into the stone like water into sand. The air shimmered for a moment, a faint ripple, and then nothing. Just the wall, solid, unmoving, mocking me. I stood frozen, my heart hammering, my backpack heavy on my shoulders. You didn't see that. You couldn't have. I ran to the wall, my sneakers slapping the pavement, my hands grazing the rough stone. It was cold, solid, no cracks, no hidden doors. I stretched on my toes, peering over the top. The park was empty. Grass, benches, trees, nothing else. No man, no backpack, no sign he'd ever been there. I told myself I was tired, that my eyes had played tricks, that he'd climbed the wall somehow, too fast for me to see. But the ripple, that shimmer, it clung to my mind, a splinter I couldn't pull free. I didn't tell anyone. What could I say? That I'd seen a man walk through a wall. They'd laugh, or worse, think I was losing it. I went to school, sat, through classes, but the wall stayed with me. Its image burned into my thoughts. At night, I'd lie awake, replaying the moment, searching for an explanation. Maybe he was a ghost, a glitch, a figment of my overstressed brain. Maybe the wall wasn't just a wall. I avoided that street for weeks, taking longer routes. But the memory followed, a shadow I couldn't shake. Years passed. I graduated, moved away, built a life. The wall became a story I told myself, a strange memory from a kid too tired to see straight. I was 24 when I returned to my hometown, a quick visit to see family. The town hadn't changed much. Same streets, same quiet mornings, same park. I was walking, lost in thought, when I found myself on that street again, the wall looming at the end. The air felt heavy, the light dim, though it was barely noon. "You're back." "You knew you would be." My stomach twisted, but I kept walking, drawn by something I couldn't name. He was there. The same man, or his twin. Short hair, green backpack, gray jacket replaced by a blue one. He walked ahead, his stride unchanged, as if no time had passed. My breath caught, my legs moving before I could think, following him, needing to know. The wall was closer now, its stone weathered but solid, a barrier that shouldn't yield. He didn't turn, didn't pause, just walked straight toward it, his body meeting the stone. The air rippled again, a faint distortion, and he was gone, swallowed whole. "It's real." "You saw it again." I ran, my heart pounding, my hands scraping the wall. It was the same, cold, unyielding, no trace of him. I grabbed the edge, pulling myself up, my arms shaking. The park stretched out below. Grass, benches, trees empty. No man, no movement, just the quiet of a place untouched. I dropped down, my breath ragged, my mind racing. This wasn't a trick, not twice, not years apart. I ran to the park's entrance 40 yards away, my shoes pounding the pavement. The plaza beyond was wide open, no place to hide. A few people lingered, old men on benches, a jogger in the distance, but no one with a backpack, no one who matched him. He was gone like he'd never been. I stood there, the plaza's emptiness pressing against me, the wall's shadow long in my mind. He's not human. He can't be. I walked back, tracing his path, searching for something, a footprint, a mark, anything. The pavement was clean, the wall silent. I leaned against it, the stone cold through my jacket, and felt it again. That prickle, that sense of being watched. The air seemed to hum, a low vibration I felt in my bones, like the wall was alive, holding secrets I'd never unravel. That night I couldn't sleep. I saw him in my dreams, his silhouette against the wall, the ripple as he vanished. I saw the wall itself, its stone shifting, faces forming in the cracks, eyes watching me. I woke sweating, the darkness of my room too close, too heavy. The memory of that man, that moment, became a weight I carried, a question I couldn't answer. Was he a ghost, a time traveler, something else? Was the wall a door, a trap, a lie? I didn't go back to that street, couldn't face it again. But sometimes when I'm alone, I feel that hum, that prickle, and I wonder if he's still out there walking through walls, waiting for me to follow. The darkness in my room feels alive, pressing against my skin like a second skin, waiting for me to close my eyes. For years, sleep has been my enemy, a battlefield where I fight shadows I can't name. My bedroom, once a sanctuary, is now a place of dread, its walls holding secrets I can't unravel. Each night I lie on my mattress, the only furniture in this sparse room, and wait for the inevitable. You know that moment when you feel something watching, just beyond the edge of your vision? It's not just my imagination, it's real, and it's been with me for as long as I can remember. I've never slept well. Even as a child, I'd lie, awake, my heart racing, convinced something was wrong. But it wasn't until a few years ago that it started. The shadows. When I close my eyes, trying to drift off, they come, tall, stretched figures, black as ink, moving in the corners of my mind. They don't speak, don't touch, but their presence is heavy, like a weight on my chest, a warning I can't ignore. You've felt it, haven't you? That instinct telling you to stay awake, to keep your eyes open because something's coming. My body knows before my mind does. A sharp pain blooming in my chest. A force that screams, don't sleep. If I listen, I'm safe. If I don't, the nightmares become real. I've tried everything to escape it. I used to sleep facing the wall, my blanket pulled over my head, blocking out the world. For a while it worked. The shadows stayed in my mind, locked behind my closed eyes. But one night everything changed. I was drifting, half asleep when I felt it. A hand, large and cold, its nails long and sharp, brushing against my scalp. My breath caught, and the world seemed to blur like a dream bleeding into reality. It moved slowly, deliberately, trailing from my head down my spine, each touch like ice sinking into my bones. Imagine it, lying alone, feeling something touch, knowing no one's there. I counted to 3, my heart pounding, and leapt up, fumbling for the light switch. The room was empty, the mattress bare, the door locked. But you know that feeling, don't you? When you're sure something was there, even if you can't see it. I checked every corner, my hands shaking, my pulse roaring in my ears. There was nowhere to hide, no furniture, no space under the mattress. The hand had come from nowhere, and it had gone back to nowhere. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I started keeping the lights on, but the shadows didn't care. They waited, patient for the moment I let my guard down. You try to outrun fear, don't you? But it always finds you. The second time was worse. I'd forced myself to lie on my back, arms crossed, determined to face whatever it was. I was tired of running. I closed my eyes, ignoring the pain in my chest, the warning that pulsed like a second heartbeat. As I drifted, it came. My eyes snapped open, and there it was, a black humanoid figure squatting on my chest. Its body was thin, its limbs bent at wrong angles, its head featureless, no eyes, no mouth. But I felt it looking, its gaze boring into me, stripping me bare. My lungs burned, unable to draw breath, as if its weight was crushing me. You've woken in the dark, certain something's there, haven't you? I tried to move, to scream, but my body was locked, trapped in that, too. Moment. Then in a blink it was gone, leaving only the echo of its presence, sharp and cold. I stopped sleeping after that, or tried to. I'd stay awake, pacing the room, drinking coffee until my hands shook. But exhaustion always wins. The third time, it went too far. I was on my back again, the blanket pulled to my chin, my body heavy with fatigue. The warning came, that familiar pain, but I ignored it, too tired to fight. I thought I could handle it. As I drifted, I felt the mattress shift, a subtle weight like someone sitting at the edge. My heart stopped. The blanket began to slide, slow and gentle, as if someone was peeling it back with care. Imagine it, lying helpless, feeling your protection, slip away knowing you're not alone. Then a touch, a soft pressure on my cheek near my neck like a kiss. For a moment I thought it was my mother, the way she used to wake me as a child. But then it changed. The kiss became a pull, a suction, sharp and painful, like something was drawing the life from me. My skin burned, my mind screamed, and I knew it wasn't her. I counted to 3, forcing my body to move, and sat up, my chest heaving. The room was empty, the blanket crumpled at my feet. But you don't mistake that kind of touch, do you? I stumbled to the door, my hands fumbling for the light, and froze. From the rooftop, I heard my mother's voice calling to my brother. She wasn't here. The realization hit like a blow, and I sank to the floor, my body trembling. What was? In my room, I checked my neck in the mirror later. A faint red mark, barely visible, but enough to make my stomach churn. My grandmother told me a story once when I was young. She'd lived in a house where sleep was dangerous. At night, she'd feel hands on her, cold and insistent, pulling at her clothes, her hair. She'd wake to find scratches, marks she couldn't explain. Some places hold on to pain, she'd said, her eyes distant. And some things feed on it. I thought it was a story to keep me in bed. Now, I'm not so sure. My house feels like hers now, a place where the dark has teeth. I searched for answers, desperate for anything to make sense. I found articles about exploding head syndrome, sleep paralysis, but they didn't explain the marks, the touches, the weight of something real. I tried to fight it. I found a military sleep technique, breathing exercises to relax in minutes. One night I tried it lying in the dark, my eyes closed. It was a mistake. A sound came, loud and piercing like a scream inside my skull, accompanied by a white light I could see through my closed lids. My body jolted, my eyes flew open, and I was alone. But the air felt charged, like something had been there inches away. I haven't tried to sleep like that since. The strangest thing is, it doesn't happen when I'm not alone. If someone else is in the room, my mother, my brother, even a friend, I sleep deeply, dreamlessly, safe. But alone the shadows come, and the warning in my chest grows louder. You felt trapped, haven't you? Caught between choices that all feel wrong. I see 3 paths. Stop sleeping. Let exhaustion take me until I collapse. Ignore the warning. Push through the fear and risk something worse. Or never sleep alone, burdening my family with my terror. I don't know how much longer I can do this. There's a story in our town, one I heard as a teenager. They say this land was once a place of suffering, a site of forgotten tragedies. People who lived here spoke of nights when the dark felt alive, when hands reached from nowhere, claiming those who slept alone. I laughed it off, back when sleep was easy. Now I lock my door and keep the lights on, praying the shadows forget me. Each night I lie awake, waiting for the pain in my chest, the sign that they're coming, and I wonder if I'll ever feel safe again. The night was heavy, the kind that presses down on you, stealing your breath. I was maybe 4, small and curious, curled up on the floor of our cramped bedroom. A sound woke me, soft, rhythmic, like footsteps in a dream. It called to me, pulling me from sleep, and I followed, not knowing I was crawling towards something that wasn't human. We lived in a house that creaked with secrets, its walls thin, its floors bare. It was the early 2000s and we were poor. Me, my mother, my newborn sister, and my father, all squeezed into a place too small for our dreams. We slept on blankets spread across the floor of a second-floor bedroom. No beds, no air conditioning, just open doors to let the night air in. My father took the couch downstairs in the living room, where the air was cooler, his snores a faint hum through the walls. The house smelled of old wood and mildew, its corners dark even in daylight. I was used to it, or thought I was. At 4, you don't question the world, you just live in it. That night I woke without reason, my eyes blinking in the dim glow of an orange nightlight. My mother slept beside me, her breathing soft. My sister a tiny bundle in her arms. The room was still, the air warm and thick, clinging to my skin. Listen. Something's moving. A sound drifted through the quiet, faint, rhythmic like footsteps. Or maybe a tapping, soft but insistent. It wasn't loud, but it was wrong, out of place in the sleeping house. I sat up, my blanket slipping, my small hands pressing against the floor. The sound came again, clearer now, pulling me like a thread. Don't know why I didn't wake my mother. Maybe I was too young to think it mattered. Or maybe the sound had a hold on me, a quiet command I couldn't resist. Follow it. See what's there. I crawled, my knees scuffing the rough floor, my palms sticky with sweat. The hallway stretched before me, narrow and shadowed, the nightlight's glow fading at its edges. The sound was louder here, a steady pulse, leading me past the closed bathroom door toward the stairs. I moved slowly, my body low, the house's silence wrapping around me like a second skin. The living room was below, its outlines soft in the dark. I paused at the top of the stairs, peering down. My father was there, sprawled on the couch, his arm dangling, his chest rising and falling. The room was dim, lit only by moonlight spilling through an open window, its curtains still. The sound wasn't coming from here. It was further, deeper into the house. I crawled down the stairs, each step a quiet creak under my weight. My heart, a small frantic thing in my chest. The living room smelled of worn fabric and my father's cologne. Familiar, safe, but the sound didn't stop. It was coming from the sewing room, a small space off the hall. Its doorway a black rectangle in the wall. The sewing room was my mother's, though she rarely used it. It held an old machine, boxes of thread, and scraps of fabric, all coated in dust. There was no door, just an empty frame, and I'd never liked it. The room felt different, colder, like it didn't belong to the house. Don't go. You know it's wrong. But the sound was there, calling me, its rhythm steady, hypnotic. I crawled closer, the floorboards cool under my hands, the air growing, heavier, thicker, like I was moving through water. The nightlight's glow didn't reach here, and the darkness seemed to pulse, alive with something I couldn't name. I stopped at the doorway, my breath shallow, my eyes wide. The sound ceased, abrupt, like a heart stopping. The sewing room wasn't just dark, it was a void, a blackness so deep it swallowed light, shape, everything. It wasn't the kind of dark you adjust to, where shapes emerge with time. This was absence, a wall of nothing that pressed against my skin, cold and wrong. Look inside. You have to look. I stared, my body frozen, my hands trembling against the floor. The air hummed, a low vibration I felt in my bones, like the room was breathing. Then I saw it. A hand, black as the void, emerged from the darkness. It wasn't attached to an arm, or if it was, I couldn't see where it began. It was long, thin, its fingers stretched, hovering just beyond the doorway, inches from my face. The hand didn't grab, didn't move closer, it just hung there, open like an invitation, a promise of something I didn't understand. Take it. It wants you to. My heart pounded. My breath caught, my body screaming to run, but I couldn't move. The hand was still, its edges sharp against the void, and I felt it watching me, though it had no eyes. I don't know how long I stared, seconds or minutes. The world reduced to that hand, that darkness. The house was silent, my father's, nor gone, the night holding its breath. Run, you have to run. But my limbs were heavy, my mind trapped in the void's pull. The hand twitched, a slight curl of its fingers, and I felt a tug, not on my body, but deeper, like it was reaching for something inside me. I wanted to scream, but my voice was gone, swallowed by the dark. Footsteps broke the spell, heavy and real, coming from the living room. My father's voice, rough with sleep, called out, "What are you doing?" I felt his hands warm and strong, lifting me from the floor, pulling me away from the doorway. The hand vanished, the void collapsing into ordinary darkness. The sewing room just a room again. My father carried me upstairs, his arms a shield, his voice a murmur I couldn't follow. He set me down beside my mother, closed the door, and the nightlight's glow returned, soft and safe. I curled into my blanket, my body shaking, my eyes fixed on the door, waiting for the sound to come again. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. The memory of the hand burned into me, vivid, unshakable. I told myself it was a dream, a trick of a tired mind, but it felt too real. The cold floor, the void, the hand's silent call. I never went near the sewing room again, avoided its doorway, its shadows. My mother noticed, asked why I was scared, but I couldn't explain. How do you describe a darkness that isn't just dark? A hand that isn't just a hand. It's still. There, it's waiting. Years later, I asked my father about that night. He frowned, said he didn't remember, but his eyes flickered like he was hiding something. The house is gone now, sold or torn down, its secrets buried. But I carry them, that hand, that void, a memory that surfaces when I'm alone, when the world is too quiet. You saw it, you'll never forget. And sometimes, in the dark, I hear that sound again. Soft, rhythmic, calling me back to the void. The Hungarian summer night hung heavy, the air thick with the scent of pine and earth, as if the forest itself was watching us. It was 2014, and I was staying at my friend's place with his stepbrother, the three of us bound by a restless curiosity, a hunger for the strange. Each night we'd venture out, drawn to the woods or the fields, chasing whispers of the unknown. You know that thrill, don't you? When the dark promises secrets, and you can't resist stepping closer. That night, we chose the abandoned horse ranch, a crumbling relic near my friend's house, its silhouette looming under the stars. We didn't know it would change us. The ranch was a forgotten playground, its barns sagging, its fences swallowed by weeds, the air heavy with decay. We'd been there before, poking through rusted gates, laughing at our own nerves. But that night something felt different. The moon was a thin crescent, casting just enough light to make the shadows deeper, more alive. My friend led the way, his flashlight beam slicing through the dark while his stepbrother trailed behind, quieter than usual. I felt it first, a prickle on my neck, like eyes boring into me from the trees. I brushed it off, blaming the late hour, but my steps slowed, my heart picking up a rhythm I couldn't explain. We reached the ranch's main path, a dirt road stretching into the distance, flanked by overgrown fields. We were joking, our voices too loud when it appeared. At the end of the road, where the path vanished into darkness, it stood. A figure, human-shaped but wrong, glowing with a pale, sickly white light. It didn't illuminate the ground or the trees, as if its radiance was for us alone. My breath caught and the world seemed to blur, like a dream slipping into reality. It was tall, thin, its limbs too long, its head featureless, a blank slate staring back. You've seen something that shouldn't be, haven't you? Something that makes your mind scream it's not real, but your body knows better. We froze, the three of us, our flashlights trembling in our hands. The figure didn't move, didn't approach, but its presence was a weight, pressing against my chest, stealing my air. I wanted to run, to scream, but my legs were lead, my voice gone. My friend whispered something, his voice shaking, but I couldn't hear over the pounding in my ears. Imagine it, standing in the dark, facing something that doesn't belong, something that knows you're there. The stepbrother took a step forward, his curiosity stronger than his fear, and that's when it moved. Not a step, not a gesture, but a turn, its head shifting toward us, as if it had just noticed us. My heart stopped. We ran, our feet pounding the dirt, the flashlight beams bouncing wildly, the ranch swallowing our shouts. We didn't stop until we reached my friend's house, our breaths ragged, our voices overlapping in a frantic jumble. What was it? I saw a figure, glowing, wrong. My friend swore it had no face, just a void. The stepbrother said it flickered like a bad signal. We argued, each of us certain, each of us seeing something different. The fear bound us, but the confusion tore us apart. You felt that, haven't you? when reality fractures and you're not sure what's true anymore. We agreed to go back, to prove it was real, to settle the argument. It was a mistake. The next night we returned, our nerves frayed but our resolve hardened. The ranch was darker, the air colder, as if it knew. We were coming. I felt it again. That prickle, that gaze heavier now, like a warning carved into my bones. We moved slowly, our flashlight sweeping the path, our footsteps muffled by the dirt. The ranch felt alive, its shadows shifting, its silence mocking us. We reached the end of the road, and there it was. The figure, still glowing, still wrong, standing in the same spot as if it had never left. My skin crawled, as if the air itself carried its presence. We edged closer, our breaths shallow, our eyes locked on it. You know that moment when you're drawn to something terrifying, unable to look away. Then it came. A sound, sharp and guttural, from the field to our right. A dog, large and white, its fur gleaming like the figure stood on the open plain, its eyes glinting in the dark. My heart seized. It bared its teeth, its growl low and menacing, and charged. We ran faster than before, the ground shaking under our feet. I glanced back and the dog was there, impossibly close, its breath hot on my heels. But my friend didn't see it. He heard the growl, felt the chase, but saw nothing. The stepbrother swore he saw something else. A shape. Not a dog, but something worse, flickering in the dark. You've been in a moment where everyone sees something different, haven't you? And yet, the fear is the same. We didn't stop until we were safe, our bodies trembling, our voices hoarse. The dog was gone. The figure too, as if they'd never been. We stood at the edge of the ranch, our flashlights dim, the night swallowing our words. What was it? I saw the dog clear as day, its teeth, its eyes. My friend heard it, felt it, but saw only the figure. The stepbrother's story changed, his words vague, his eyes distant. We were together, but our realities split, each of us trapped in our own nightmare. I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just a figure, not just a dog, but something else, something that bent the world to its will. My grandfather told me a story once when I was a kid. He'd grown up in these parts near the same woods. One night he and his friends saw a light in the fields, white and cold, moving without source. They followed it, drawn like moths, and found nothing but a circle of dead grass, the air heavy, with a smell he couldn't name. Some things live in the gaps, he'd said, his voice low. They show you what they want you to see. I thought it was a tale to keep me from wandering. Now, I'm not so sure. The ranch haunts me. I haven't gone back, haven't walked those woods at night. I keep seeing it, in the quiet moments when the world is still. The figure, its glow, its blank stare. The dog, its teeth, its impossible speed. You've carried a memory that won't let go, haven't you? One that changes the way you see the dream. I wonder if it was a trick, a projection like my friend said, or something older, something tied to the land. The locals have a story, one I heard after that night. They say the ranch was built on cursed ground, a place where travelers vanished, where lights danced in the fields. They call it the White Watcher, a thing that shows you what it wants, twisting your mind until you doubt your own eyes. We never spoke of it again, the three of us. My friend moved away, his stepbrother too, and I'm left with the memory, sharp and cold, like a blade in my chest. I lock my doors now, keep the lights on, but the dark feels different, like it's waiting. Each night I lie awake, wondering if it's still out there, glowing in the fields, watching for someone new. And I wonder if it knows my name. The rain fell in sheets, turning the world gray, the kind of day that makes you want to stay inside. I was 13, trudging through a storm to keep a promise to my friend, my sneakers soaked, my heart uneasy. The alley ahead was a place we always avoided. Its shadows too deep, its air too still. That day, something waited there, and it changed me forever. School was a blur of noise and routine, but lunch breaks were different. Most kids stayed in the cafeteria, trading sandwiches and gossip. But my best friend had a habit of going home to eat. It was a British thing, she said, a custom her family kept. Her house was only a 2-minute walk, but it meant passing an alley that always set my teeth on edge. Narrow, flanked by high brick walls, it smelled of damp stone and garbage. It's far, swallowed by shadows. I wasn't supposed to leave school, rules were strict, but she'd coax me. Her grin infectious, her voice insistent. "Come on, it's fine," she'd say. And I'd cave, sneaking out, my stomach twisting with guilt and something darker. That Friday, the sky was a bruise, heavy with clouds that promised rain. I wanted to stay at school, to avoid the cold. The alley, the risk of getting caught. "Let's just eat here," I pleaded, but she shook her head, her eyes bright. "It's quicker at home and Mom's making soup." I sighed, pulling my jacket tighter, and followed her out the gates. The wind howled, tugging at my hair, the first drops of rain stinging my cheeks. "Stay back. You don't have to go." But I did. My loyalty to her stronger than my fear. My steps matching hers as we climbed the street. The alley was at the top, a left turn from the main road. We walked in silence, the rain growing heavier, blurring the world. My friend's chatter faded, her pace slowing as we neared the turn. I glanced at her, annoyed, ready to tease her for dragging me out, but her face stopped me. She was pale, her eyes wide, fixed on something ahead. "Look, see what she sees." I followed her gaze, my heart lurching. There, at the alley's mouth, was a man. He was tall, his body shrouded in black, jacket, pants, a hood covering all but his eyes. Those eyes were sharp, locked on us, unblinking. In his hand, glinting under the rain, was a knife, its blade long and thin, catching the dim streetlight. My breath caught, my legs heavy, like I was sinking into the pavement. "Run. You have to run." My friend grabbed my arm, her fingers digging, her voice a whisper. "Turn around." We backed away, slow at first, then faster, our sneakers splashing through puddles. The man didn't move, didn't chase, but his stare followed, a weight that pressed against my spine. We reached the main street, the school gates in sight, and my friend broke into a run, her scream piercing the rain. I followed, my heart pounding, my lungs burning, the world a blur of gray and fear. We burst through the gates, collapsing under the awning, our clothes soaked, our breaths ragged. Teachers rushed over, their voices sharp with worry. "What's wrong?" one asked, and my friend, trembling, choked out, "He had a knife!" The words hit me like a slap, confirming what I'd hoped was a mistake. I nodded, my voice gone, my mind replaying the man's eyes, the blade's gleam. We were sent to the office, wrapped in blankets, given tea that burned my tongue. I told a friend who told a teacher who called the police. The rest was a haze. Questions, forms, the principal's stern face. The police came that evening, taking our statements separately at home. I sat in my living room, my mother's hand on my shoulder, trying to describe the man. His black clothes, his hooded face, the knife in his right hand. The officers nodded, but their questions were strange, confusing. How far was he? As long as a bus, a car? I stumbled, unsure, my memory sharp but my words clumsy. They left, promising to check the school's cameras. Days later, they called back. The footage showed us running, panicked, but no man, no figure in black. Our stories didn't match, they said. Details about his height, the knife's size, the exact spot he stood. "Kids make things up," one officer said, his voice kind but firm. "Maybe you got scared and imagined it." I wanted to scream. I hadn't imagined it. Those eyes, that blade, they were real, etched into me. My friend swore the same, her voice shaking when we talked, but the doubt crept in. Had we seen the same thing? Had the rain, the alley, our fear twisted it? The school tightened security, but the whispers followed. Classmates teasing, teachers watching us like we were fragile or lying. I stopped going to my friend's house, stayed in the cafeteria, my world smaller, safer. But the alley stayed. With me, its shadows lurking in my dreams, the man's eyes waiting when I closed mine. Years passed, but the fear didn't. I was in my early 20s, volunteering at a hospital, when I walked near that street again. It was a sunny day, the alley just a turn away, but my stomach twisted, my legs heavy. Don't go, you know what's there. I turned back, choosing a longer route, my heart racing. Later, I read about a murder in that area. 2 elderly women stabbed in their home. The killer never caught. The news didn't mention the alley, but I felt it. A connection I couldn't shake. Was it him, the man we'd seen? Or was it just a coincidence, my mind tying knots that weren't there? I don't walk that street anymore. I don't talk about that day. Not with my friend, not with anyone. But it's there. A scar on my memory, sharp as the blade I saw. He's still out there. He's watching. The police didn't believe us. The cameras didn't see. But I know what I felt. What I... And sometimes when it rains, I hear his footsteps behind me. Steady, close, waiting for me to turn. The abandoned house loomed across the field, its broken windows like empty eyes, watching us as we laughed under the fading sun. We were 14, a group of girls in year 8, drunk on the thrill of scary movies and whispered tales of the supernatural. The house, a sagging relic in our small town, was infamous, a place where a teen had killed an old man years ago, or so the story went. That afternoon, we were reckless, drawn to the danger, our giggles masking the unease that prickled our skin. You know that feeling, don't you? When you're pulled towards something forbidden and every step feels like a dare? We didn't know we'd awaken something that would follow us. The house was a ruin, its walls stained with mold, its floors littered with debris. We shouldn't have been there, but we were, kicking at broken glass, tossing junk, acting like we owned the place. I felt it then, a heaviness like the air was warning us to leave. My friend, the boldest of us, laughed it off, daring us to go further. We didn't stay long, the creepiness too much even for us. Instead, we retreated to the paddock across the road, an empty stretch of grass under the house's shadow. That's where we did it. Someone had made a Ouija board, a crude thing of cardboard and marker, and we sat in a circle, our fingers trembling on the planchette, our voices hushed. You've been tempted by the unknown, haven't you? Ready to open a door you can't close. We asked the usual questions. Is anyone there? What's your name? Our giggles fading as the planchette moved. It spelled Bob. The name felt wrong, too ordinary, yet it sent a chill down my spine. We asked more, our voices shaking, but the answers grew erratic, the planchette jerking under our fingers. My heart stopped when it spelled my name. I pulled my hand away, my breath shallow, and the others followed, their faces pale. We didn't say goodbye, didn't close the circle. Just grabbed our things and ran, the house's silhouette looming behind us. You know that moment when you realize you've crossed a line and there's no going back? The weeks that followed were a nightmare. I couldn't sleep, couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching. My friends were the same, haunted by dreams they wouldn't describe, their eyes hollow at school. For me, it was worse. Every night, like clockwork, I'd wake at 3 a.m., my heart racing, the room too dark, too still. You've woken in the dead of night, certain something's there, haven't you? I'd stare at the clock, its red digits burning into my eyes, and feel it. A presence heavy and cold, pressing against the edges of my room. I started sleeping with the lights on, but it didn't help. The dark was alive, and it knew I was afraid. My life was unraveling. My parents had split and I was moving states with my mom, leaving the house, the town, everything behind. My friends threw a going-away party. A wild affair with half the school year, but I couldn't enjoy it. My anxiety was a constant hum, a shadow I couldn't shake. Late that night, a small group slipped away, and when they returned, their faces were wrong, pale, shaken. One boy, usually loud and brash, was trembling, his voice barely a whisper. He'd seen something during another Ouija session, a vision of his family, lifeless, their eyes empty. The others laughed it off, drowning their fear in music and chaos. But I felt it. We'd opened something and it wasn't done with us. The last night in my family home was the worst. I slept on the couch in the lounge, the house stripped bare, my furniture gone. The room was pitch black, the silence oppressive, like the air was holding its breath. I drifted into a dream. Nonsense at first. My backyard, the clothesline, friends, and family laughing. Then it changed. They dropped to the ground, lifeless, their faces gray. A voice called my name, twisted and wrong, like it came from a throat not meant for words. I woke, my heart pounding, the darkness suffocating. I scanned the room, my eyes straining, and then I saw it. At the foot of the couch, a figure. Tall, broad, its silhouette swallowing the light, it stood over me, unmoving. My breath caught and the world seemed to blur, like a dream bleeding into reality. I searched for a face, for eyes, and found them. Red, faint but unmistakable, glowing with a malice I could feel in my bones. You've seen something in the dark, haven't you? Something that knows you see it. I whispered, Dad. My voice, weak, hoping it was him, knowing it wasn't. No answer, just that gaze, heavy and unyielding. I pulled the blanket over my head, my body trembling, my breath shallow. Imagine it, hiding like a child, knowing something's there, waiting for you to look. I stayed like that, counting seconds, praying for it to leave. Somehow I drifted off, waking to the faint light of dawn, my mom's voice calling me. The figure was gone, but its presence lingered, a stain on the room. I didn't tell her, didn't tell anyone. You keep things like that to yourself, don't you? When they're too real to share. We moved, and for a while I thought I'd escaped. The new house, the new school, they were a fresh start, but it followed me. Not every night, but often enough I'd wake at 3 a.m. The same dread, the same weight. I threw myself into school, into music, anything to keep the fear at bay. Then it happened again. I was back in the old house, visiting my dad, studying for a music diploma. I was alone, sitting at the computer desk, the room dim, the kitchen visible through the doorway. I felt it, a sudden unease like the air had thickened. Then a sound, loud and violent, like the oven door slamming with impossible force. The lights flickered, the room shook, and I knew it was here. I jumped up, my heart racing, and ran to the kitchen. Nothing. The oven was closed, the house silent, but the air was wrong, charged with a presence I couldn't see. You've felt that, haven't you? When a place you know turns against you. I grabbed the phone and ran outside, calling my dad, my voice shaking. I must have sounded mad, but I didn't care. Something's in the house, I said, and he came. Home, his face worried but kind. Nothing happened after that, not that I saw. I moved out soon after, grew up, left the memories behind, or tried to. But you don't forget a thing like that, do you? The house, the board, the figure. They're part of me, a shadow I carry, My grandmother told me a story once when I was little. She'd lived in a house where things moved, plates shifting, doors opening, always at night. She found an old Ouija board in the attic, burned it, and the disturbances stopped. "Don't invite what you can't control," she'd said, her eyes sharp. I thought it was a warning for kids. Now I'm not so sure. Our board, our carelessness opened something, and it's still out there, waiting. There's a tale in our town, one I heard after we moved. The house we'd trespassed in wasn't just a crime scene. It was cursed, a place where rituals went wrong, where things were summoned and never sent back. They say the spirits there don't forgive, don't forget. I believe it now. I don't touch Ouija boards, don't walk past old houses at night. But sometimes when I wake at 3 a.m., I feel it. Those red eyes watching from the dark, waiting for me to slip. 12 stories. 12 reasons you might leave the light on tonight. But long after the final word fades, something stays. The stillness in your room. The strange urge to glance behind you. The realization that what scared those people might not be so far from you. These stories weren't told to comfort, they were told to remind us. Fear doesn't only live in the unknown. Sometimes it waits in the familiar, but this night is only one of many. And there are still more stories, more whispers in the dark, more truths hidden beneath ordinary lives, more nightmares begging to be shared. So if your curiosity is stronger than your fear, subscribe, tap the bell, and return when the night calls again. Because next time, we won't just tell you what happened. We'll bring you closer to where it's happening now.